Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I'm joined today by
Tony Frezza.
Melissa Dixon.
And today we're going to be talking about the power list. And the power list is something that's kind of an untraditional topic where it's not fitness or nutrition related, not even really related to in the gym, although some of it could be. But basically it's a productivity system that the three of us have been using, incorporated into our lives recently that's made a huge difference for us. So it's something that we wanted to share with you guys, help you guys be more productive, be a more well-rounded and balanced person as well. And we're going to be diving into that today. So first and foremost, what the power list is, like I said, it's a productivity system or way of prioritizing your day. And very simply, it is at the beginning of each day or the night before, you're writing down your 5 priority tasks that you want to accomplish that day or the next day. And as you cross those things off that list, if you cross out all 5 things, you win the day. And it's something that you can track for weeks at a time and months at a time. And if you win 3 out of every 4 weeks, you win the month. If you win, let's say 10 out of 12 months in a year, you win the year. I don't know what the year thing is.
What do you win?
You win life.
You win life.
That's what you win.
It's a max productive trophy. You didn't hear?
Yeah, so did I get everything there? Did that kind of sum it up with what the power list is?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's kick it off and talk about why we love the power list. Why have you guys found it to be so effective, and why have you found it to be like different than just just a to-do list? Like lots of people have done to-do lists before.
Yeah. I think one of the main things about that separates a power list from a to-do list is that you pick things that are in line with your goals. So in order to have a power list, you have to have goals. Whether they be like physically, relationships, professionally. You have these goals that you could set monthly, weekly, yearly, but you have those power list tasks that you do each day that are in line with those goals. So you only pick things to put on your power list that are actually going to move you forward and move you towards those goals.
Yeah, one of the things that we put on this power list document that we'll talk about in more detail is like what's a task that's going to have an impact 10 years from now. It might be a little thing, but it's something that if you did today, it might plant a seed that might develop into something 10 years from now. It's not just your typical it's not just getting by. It's not just doing the dishes or something like that. That's very simple. Although if your relationship's in a bad situation, maybe the dishes is a big thing, right? But it's got to be something that's going to move you forward in an important area of your life.
I think for me, being the desk manager and wearing so many hats, I constantly feel like I have a running to-do list of hundreds of things. So for me, I was like, oh, a list? Like, I don't need this. Like, I do lists. I got this. And then I listened to that podcast when you recommended it, and it resonated with me because I was thinking in the mindset of like, all right, if I can just target these things that make me max productive, if I can solidify 5 things from my day, there's 25 other things that I do that are to-do list items, but those aren't the power list. Power list are those things that above anything else, if I come through these doors, I have to get these done to win today, to really make sure that I'm operating at my highest value, that you're paying me to do. I want to make sure that you're paying me what I'm worth, or working to the worth that you're paying me for too. So it really helps me feel like I'm, worthy of that position when I'm focused, because I can get caught in 100 different ways of a member coming up to me and wanting to put their account on hold and wanting to do different things. And it is my job too, but it focuses me back to those things that I really want to target. And it also gives me license to put that thing in there that takes care of me, that's going to move me forward, of, study for my level 2. Put that on my power list. I was like, you know what? I did not win today if I didn't do this. I have to find a way at the end of the day to fit what I didn't do in to move me forward, or whether it's do my, programming for my shoulder and making sure I'm taking care of myself. Putting that on my power list is something that I'm going to start doing because I've been missing it. And I'm like, you know what? It needs to be that much of a priority. So, putting those things in there for yourself too.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part about it, is it puts you back in control of your life. I think all of us feel, whether it's due to social media or email or being in a 9-to-5 job, you feel like you're kind of at the mercy of someone else's to-dos and trying to do things for others all the time. And this is a way that you can still have all those things, but if you still have to be able to prioritize your 5 things for that day. And if those 5 things don't happen, then you're sort of out of control of your life, and it's putting the control back into your hands to say, no, these are the things that are going to move me forward, and I got to get them done. And they don't have to be that big, but when you do that day after day, they become big. They become very impactful.
Yeah, and we're talking about a power list, like prioritizing your most important things, but I think a to-do list is just important in a sense too, because a lot of people just carry around all their tasks for the day in their head. And I used to be that person that the tasks just fall out and they don't get done if you don't write them down. So, there's a famous folk tale, I guess, about Albert Einstein. He was like once asked his own phone number, and he had to look it up, because he's like, I'm not going to keep information in my head that I can just look up really easily. And I think that's where I always go back to my power list, is like, if something comes up in my head to do, I just get it down on a list. Mm-hmm. It may not make the top 3. It may not make the top 3 for, a few days, but it's at least on a list, and it's out of my head, so my brain's clear to just think.
Yeah, and I think that's a good time to kind of show this document. If you guys are watching the video version, is we've created a power list document that makes this a little bit easier. And basically down the right side, you can have your entire to-do list. So anything that just pops in your head, could be just like a doctor's appointment, a phone call you have to make, even if it's not that important, just throw it on that right side to get it out of your head. And then what's on the left side there, that's where you want to actually put the priorities for that given day. And we have the 5 days of the week. We have a weekend slot as well. You don't have to use the weekend slot. You can just go with the Monday to Friday slots. But that's where the priorities go. And then there's a chance on each day to circle the W if you've won that given day and you've crossed out all 5 things on that list. And one of the things that I find just really rewarding with it is the physical act of being able to cross things out. It's satisfying to feel accomplished, and it kind of reminds me of CrossFit. I think the power list and CrossFit has a lot of carryover, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it on the podcast, is like the way CrossFit has changed a lot of people's perspective on fitness, and Beach Fit 2 is included in this. It's repeatable, it's measurable. There's a competitive element to it, even if it's just competitive against yourself. And you add that to your day and your productivity, and I think there's a lot of carryover between those 2 mindsets.
I've been doing this regularly since I listened. Like, before you made that document, I was doing it on a sticky note, and I was writing my 5 things and crossing them off. And if I didn't cross off my list, I would feel defeated. I started walking out of the building I didn't get my 5th thing done. How am I gonna do that? Who can I, if I can call someone on my drive home to make that thing happen, or I would save things for at home, and I'm like, I have to get that thing or I'm gonna feel defeated. It changed. A to-do list, not that it's not as important, but a to-do list is for those rote little tasks, and these overarching encompassing things that you write on the power list, you realize how much they actually mean when you get them done. When you don't get them done, you're like, oh, I have to slide that big thing to tomorrow, and then that's going to scoot things down of my tomorrow's power list. And then you realize how much you're sliding. Like when you're physically writing it down, you realize like, if I'm not really productive, this is going to go on tomorrow, and this is going to make my tomorrow hectic. Like, so you start realizing like, in this minute, what can I accomplish and what needs to be accomplished, and prioritizing that. And it gives you a lot of freedom.
Also with that, if there's a big thing that gets passed to day, it might be too big, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's big and important, it made your power list, it's number one, but you didn't get it done that day. And then you didn't get it done the next day. And then that helps you realize like, well, maybe it needs to be a little bit smaller. And that way I can get it done. And like Andrew said, like check it off and get momentum, right? Because momentum for progress is key. It's like, we gotta get the wheels turning. We gotta get moving here, and start checking those off. And once we see that, it's like, it just plays off itself and feeds off itself, and we just do more and get more done.
On that same note, I don't know if you guys feel this as owners, but it's helped me manage my team better, in the sense that like, I started realizing what I needed to delegate, because I wasn't getting those essential things done because I was wrapped up in so many little tasks. And I'm like, these little tasks can be them. These can be the desk girls, and this can be, not my domain anymore. I realized what I could give up to be more productive. So it helped me in a lot of ways become a better manager, just by using this tool.
Yeah, what Dr. Sean told me, who's my business coach, was he was saying if it sits on that to-do list really for more than a week, either it's you delegate it to someone, or you just don't do it. You decide that thing's not important. You just you move on without that thing. So yeah, you really want to try to just like either you do it, you delegate it, or you remove it, kind of a deal. I like what you brought up, Tony, about kind of breaking things down into smaller steps. And I think that's where kind of the art of the power list comes in. I think if any of you guys want to implement this, you're going to hit a few stumbling blocks at first. Either, probably more likely, you're going to try to bite off more than you can chew. Your power list is going to be like a week's worth of work in a day, because you're trying to just bite off more than you can chew. Some people will shoot too small, but I think more commonly what I've seen in the conversations I've had with people that have implemented this, they try to take on too much. So I think if you can break down that big project you have into its smallest noticeable part, like if you got that thing done, it would be progress. It might not be a ton of progress, but it would be progress. If you can do that, more than likely, if you get the ball rolling, like let's say your goal is to make a sales call, you will probably make 2 or 3 sales calls. But if you just have your goal as 1 sales call for the day, or I just want to read for 5 minutes of a book or 10 minutes of a book, make it really manageable. You probably will read more than that, but it helps to have it a little bit more manageable, I've found.
Yeah, so like on the power list that we've made, there's 5 top things. You could start with 3. One of the biggest mistakes probably is trying to bite off more than you can chew and listing too many things, and then not feeling that sense of satisfaction and actually feel like you have been inadequate during the day because you didn't cross off enough things. So I would actually recommend choosing more like 3 to 4 for your power list as you get started, and then gradually kind of build it up. And then there will be plenty on the miscellaneous as well. So if you get those 3 to 4 done, you can always get some more done off the miscellaneous task list.
Yeah, especially if you're someone who's like, you already have a full-time job, or you're already a mom with 2 or 3 kids, and you already feel like, my day's already planned for me, right? I'm never making time for myself at this point. Like start with 2 to 3 things that you wouldn't have normally done in your day, or you haven't made time for previously. Start to get some momentum, chipping at those become wins. And then maybe after a month you make 4 in a day becomes a win, and then it becomes 5 in a day is a win, something like that.
I think this probably reads to people first listening to it as something that's like a managerial tool, or a box owner, or someone with a high demand, ton of tasks in the day. And like a stay-at-home mom listening to this might not resonate with it as much, but I think like, man, if I had this when I was a stay-at-home mom, I would be such an effective mom. I would have like scheduled that library visit on Tuesdays when the library has story time for the kids, like made those my non-negotiables on my list to be max productive as a mom, because I would constantly get caught up in all of those things that hold me up as a manager now. The people coming to me here and taking me away from my high priority tasks, not that you guys take away from me, but like the things that take away that I have to, filter out was the kids coming to me with a milk sippy cup, or some spill or laundry. I would just get caught up in the to-do list instead of the priority items that I wanted to do. I would miss story time because I was caught up cleaning a poop explosion from a diaper, or I wasn't making those things my priority. I was kind of just chasing after putting out all the little fires of being a mom, and like the dishes in the sink or whatever from the night before, instead of putting those first.
Yeah, and I agree completely. And from like a business owner's perspective, one of the things that I kept finding before I used the power list is I would never let myself win a day. Meaning, no matter how productive my day was, there was still all these tasks that needed to be done, right? Because there's always something you could be working on. So, if I didn't have, like, sometimes it was setting clear boundaries. Okay, I'm gonna stop working at this time of day. And I've just found that the power list is so much more rewarding in the sense that, whether it's noon or it's 6 o'clock at night, when I do check off those things, I really feel like it's a successful day, and I allow myself to have that victory and kind of celebrate it, rather than before. Even the most productive days I've ever had, I still had that feeling of the things I didn't get around to. So this gives you that little bit of closure at the end of your day, like, yes, this was a really good day, and let's do it. Let's start again tomorrow and do it again tomorrow.
I think that's where this could really speak to teachers, because I felt that way the entire time I taught, and you'd hear it. I'm sure that the teachers in our group will tell you, like, it's summer and like the job is over. Everyone's like, yeah, the job ends in summer for teachers, but even teachers feel like, well, this is the ramping up time for fall. Like, they don't feel like they ever get a time where they're not in a to-do list cycle. There's always something to do. There's literally, you leave the school day thinking like, okay, tomorrow I've got to, make up for this that I didn't get done today. So that same feeling. And this would be a really great way for them to feel those wins too, of like, I would come home with literally truckloads of science journals, and each journal of my 100 and something kids had 12 pages in them to grade each. So maybe getting 10 journals would be my win for that, like that check, and I could finally celebrate I got 10 done, right, instead of thinking that pile's still there,
right, still got 90 to go.
Yeah, that would have given me some big wins.
Yeah, and you can also make these very personal too, and like related to your family, and it doesn't have to be related to your business or your professional life, so it could be, I want to take my kids swimming for a half hour. Like, I'm going to do that today. I put it off for a week, and that's going to happen today. So like you said, Andrew, it helps split up the professional side from the personal side when you're like, oh, I feel guilty going home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. But on my power list, it's spend time with family. Yep. And I have to get that done.
Yeah, I put like date nights and stuff on there a lot of times. If I know that that's something that I might potentially skip or something and I might not make time for, I make sure it gets on there for that particular day. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do. Think about all the areas of your life that you want to get better at. Your relationships, how you spend your time, how you're spending your energy, your physical fitness side, your nutrition, and find ways to, in any given week, you have things that are moving you closer to your 10-year vision in each of those different categories for yourself. You might not have it really clearly defined, but that's one way that at the end of the week you can kind of do a little checks and balances on yourself, is just look at some of the things you've crossed out. And that's why we like having it on one page and say, okay, am I balanced? Is all 25 of my tasks in a week related to business, or do I have some stuff on relationships? Do I have some stuff on nutrition? I know for me, when I come into a week, it's like, if I haven't been sleeping well, if I haven't been eating well, nutrition or sleep's going to be one of the things on Monday's list. So I make sure I don't just go into productivity mode and I prioritize that thing.
That's a great point. It's something that I've kind of left off the list, knowing that it's just going to happen, right? I'm going to get my CrossFit workout in. I'm going to eat to the best of my abilities. But it's true. When it comes time to get those things back in check and tighten up, it's good to put them back on your power list. And maybe for people that are trying to get consistency, just coming to the gym, that gym visit makes the power list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or tracking an entire day of food intake. That's a huge win. That's a huge win that not a lot of people celebrate. People celebrate like, oh, you've hit 30 days or you've hit like bigger milestones, but one day matters. So, and a missed day matters. So putting that for your whole week, and then at the end of the week, you got your win for getting every meal tracked that you ate in a week. You know, like those little milestones to the bigger milestone matter, because you missed that one day and your streak's gone. And I mean, it's good to pick back up on day 3 if you missed day 2, but those things can build a lot of momentum that you don't realize.
Yeah, and eventually those things become habit. They don't have to sit on the power list forever. But when you're really struggling, and that's the area you're really focused on right now, you have to get them on that list. You have to make them important. I wanted to talk about like what it isn't. We already talked about it's not like a typical to-do list, right? We're not just throwing everything on there. We are prioritizing. It's also not just a goal or wish list. Like it's not, oh, I want to make $10,000, and like you're not just writing that over and over again every day. It needs to be actionable. Like making $10,000 could be a goal, but you have to figure out, okay, well, what's something actionable? What's something that's 100% within my control? Everything on your list, all 5 of those things each day, needs to be fully within your control. And that way, at the end of the day, you have no one to blame but yourself, essentially, if you get them done or not. So that's a really big mistake, is if you make it too lofty or out of your control, then it's not going to be something you can actually do.
Yeah, I like the example you wrote on here, and it's like, don't just say you're going to make more sales if you're in sales. Like, actually say how many calls you're going to make, and kind of pick out the most important calls that is going to further your career or help you make more sales.
Yeah, your language surrounding that is important too. Like, it can't be, I'm gonna make contact with XYZ. Like, you don't control who answers the phone. So making contact with 10 people could mean 1,000 calls, the way that people answer calls. So it has to be something, like you said, totally fully in your control. I could say, I want to get all 20 spots of my summer session filled with kids, but that's not in my control. So I can say I want to build a program that's going to entice 20 kids to join.
I'm going to make 5 calls, or I'm going to have 2 conversations today. If you're going to go something even like a conversation that relies on another person, it has to be a really small number that, like, yes, if you put in enough volume, you're going to have the conversations to make that happen.
Right.
So you guys have kind of mentioned it. I want to talk about, like, well, what are some good examples? What are some really good, concrete, well-rounded life examples that, a CrossFitter or a beach fitter might use, not just related, we don't know whether someone's an employee somewhere, a mom, a business owner, but thinking more in terms of the stuff that we more address, like nutrition and workouts and recovery and personal development and all these things. Like, what are some of the key actions that someone might put on a list? So like, I'll kick it off with like tracking. Like, I would actually recommend, if you're having some trouble tracking, don't even put, I want to hit my macros today. Just say, I want to track 100% of what goes in my mouth today. Like, make it that simple, make it that easy to do. So even if you go off track, as long as you spend the time at the end of the day to put everything that you went off track with into it, you've still gotten a win today. You build momentum, and then from there, you can start to say, I want to hit my macros, or I want to get more specific with it. Even
before macros, it could just be eating whole foods. I want to eat no processed foods today.
Yeah.
Or like, I guess it's not really an elimination, but eating only whole foods. So that way, nothing that goes in your body today is not grown from the ground.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's your goal.
As simple as no bars, because it's like, okay, I've had 1 to 2 perfect bars every day for a week. No bars today, right? Something like that.
Some people will hit trouble at certain meals. So like, if they're always like grabbing McDonald's for lunch, like say like a homemade salad for lunch, and that makes the power list. And like, having that homemade salad is hopefully going to change a lot of other things in your nutrition.
Yeah, I think hydration's another one. A lot of times people skip it. We're entering the middle of summer, so it could be a number of ounces that you want hit in a day. Really easy to control that. Hopefully you're not having to chug 30 ounces at night, but again, like, you make that mistake once and then you start to plan better in future days.
Could be learning a new recipe and making a new recipe, right? Because then that helps you that day, but then it also transfers into the next week when you're like, oh, what do I make? Oh yeah, I learned that thing last week. And so hopefully you do 1 a week of learning a new recipe, and in a year you're a 5-star chef.
I think it could be non-nutrition related, obviously. I think it could be something like even as simple as mindset. We talk a lot about people's mindset in here, and I think it could be something where I complained less than 5 times today, or we have some people who are like, I don't want to be that person who always approaches things negatively, or I said 0 bad things about myself. Because there's people who I know are working on being like less self-deprecating, and we snap our bracelets and like saying it's hot outside. I want to never say it's hot outside to a client. That's a personal goal of mine. Every time someone says it's hot outside, I'm like, it feels great. Because it's not worth a mention. Like I think it does feel great because I'm from Florida my whole life, so it does feel great to me. But if that's it, if I never say it's not hot outside, or something mindset related could be your goal as well.
Yeah.
If that's your priority.
Could be reading like a personal development or mindset book for 10 minutes.
Writing in like a gratitude journal for 10 minutes.
Meditation that just makes you aware of your thoughts to then be able to hopefully notice when you're saying, you're complaining or saying it's hot outside.
Because there's times where I want to snap my bracelet 5 times or less today. Like I snap myself all the time. So like me, all right, no snaps today. No snap day.
I know when people are like battling injuries in here, like crossover symmetry, like that could be something I've been saying I'm going to do it for months now. Like that could go on the list, right? That could be a really important first step for you as well. Recovery-wise, it could be getting in bed by a certain time. Like I'm going to be in bed lights out by 9 p.m. tonight, right? It's not that I'm going to get 9 hours of sleep. Like that's really hard to control, honestly, because you might get up in the middle of the night, you got kids, you got dogs, like something happens, you just wake up for no reason. That's hard to control, but you can fully control, I'm going to be in bed lights out by a certain time.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the stuff you should be doing. Like if coach is like, coach has been telling me I should be doing crossover symmetry, or I should be stretching after class, like put that on the list, so because that's ultimately what can help you move the needle in your workouts, is putting that extra time in. And
I'm a personal coach client, and I have personal coach clients, and I know that it slips. I know there's missed workouts. I know there's always times where I'm like, Zach, I promise I did it before class the next day. You signed it on Thursday, but I did it on Friday, and I go back and complete it. And that kind of thing, it's hard to get in. When you have a full-time job and kids, and you have to get here at a certain time, you have to leave right away, you don't have time before or after class, those things can slide really easily because you are pigeonholed. So I've literally started doing some of my work at home. When the kids are getting their teeth brushed, mommy's on the wall doing wall slides, like it'll happen, it gets done. So putting that on the power list will make you get creative to do your stuff, when and where you can, to take care of yourself and put yourself as a priority.
Cool, so let's talk a little bit more about like how to use it. I think it's really smart to you use these sheets. We'll have them out, we'll email a copy out so everyone can use it if they want to. I highly recommend like Sunday night or Monday morning, you're getting that right column filled, like whether it's transferring it over from the previous week. We have a spot in there that you can also put like key projects in the top right hand corner. So like an example was we were just in a big hiring phase at the gym. Like that was a project here. There was a lot of miscellaneous tasks that fell under that hiring phase, but that was a project for several weeks at a time. So that's kind of a bigger thing that might fit in the top right, whereas like a little phone call you have to make just goes on that to-do list, and then you start moving stuff over day by day as you prioritize. One thing that I found really effective with the power list is as you're transitioning from task to task, it allows you to revisit it. So I would have it on you. Just something as simple as having it on you physically at all times, whether it's a picture on your phone or you have the actual document with you in like a notebook and you just carry it with you at all times. I find that when you get done with the task, it's easy to get onto social media or get distracted, and having that next most important task ready to go right into really limits that downtime that you would have spent just kind of wasted 30 minutes here, 45 minutes here, and gone back and forth. Any other things that you guys can think of from like kind of an application standpoint that have made it more effective for you?
Yeah, it has to be a physical list. Like it can't be abstract. It can't just be like in your head. Like this is my power list in my head. Like, you have to write it down, whether it's physically written on paper or you do use a notes app, which I use for mine, because I find that, like you said, you're in the middle of like Home Depot trip and you're like, what's on my power list today? Like, that's when you want to go back to like your phone and just have it there. Also, it makes you can have in a notes app, you could have that power list, but then you can have the miscellaneous list separate. So, you know, when those things come up, you're like, oh, I got to get that at Home Depot or the grocery store or something. Just throw those on those miscellaneous lists and have separate lists for those other things, so that you're always just clearing your brain, right? And you're always doing like these constant brain dumps and, you know, kind of reconciling stuff out of your brain and onto the paper or, you know, digital paper.
Another thing that I find really helpful is getting it scheduled in a calendar. So if you can combine a power list with an actual calendar, then it becomes really real, right? You take those key action steps, you get them into your calendar. Now there's nothing that can happen around those times, and you're kind of forced into working on those projects at the key times.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, another positive of the digital list is you're right there for the calendar. It's like, oh yeah, that should go on my calendar. All right, I'm gonna put it in. There could be a downfall where also social media icons are right next to that, but hopefully, you know, you pick up your phone and the note list or the power list pulls you away from that stuff, you know, and you're like, look, I could go to that, or I could go to my power list and see what has to get done next.
Habits list power becomes stronger. It does. It really does. Like, I don't think I've posted anything to my personal Instagram. I post like once a week on there, you know, because I'm constantly in that mode of, oh, what am I doing? How am I being effective? I like the part of the power list that you talked about in that upper right side where we have like those overarching projects. That's really like this week, it's the first of the month week. So there's all kinds of tasks in our gym. There's the new sign-up bracelets. There's the committed club roster. There's all kinds of things that those are big payroll, big, but they break down into 10 tasks each. So putting all those tasks out on the list and prioritizing those through the week and which ones need to get done in what order, then really helps me stay focused when everything aligns at one time, you know? Like payroll on top of the first of the month is like, you know, it's like a blue moon.
Perfect storm.
Yeah, so it really helps keep me in the mindset of, all right, it's a payroll week, I have to prioritize payroll, people gotta get paid. But we also have the first of the month stuff and all of these other things to get done on top of my training clients, on top of it being a Monday with writing my weekly training plan for my clients and everything else. So it helps you break the big stuff into little stuff, and really, it's like coaching. You triage things throughout your week that is the most important.
Yeah, and it becomes measurable, it becomes repeatable. You can see if you're winning the week, and I think we'll kind of wrap up there. I want to show the document one more time so you guys can see it. And then I don't think we talked about this. I mean, this is something that we stole. We did not come up with this. We stole this from the MF CEO, who has a podcast. Andy Frisell is his name. And it's a little vulgar, so you might just want to stick with this episode. But he's got 2 episodes, episode 9 and episode 107, about the power list and why they came up with it, how they use it. And it's a lot of things that we talk about. So you really don't need to listen to those episodes to get in on it. You guys have plenty of information to get started. And we'll have some of these at the front desk when this episode's released. We'll send out a digital copy and an email at some point as well, so you guys have it. Anything else that you guys want to add about the power list?
No, just that you kind of said it in the beginning. It's like you could do it at night, you could do it in the morning. It's cool. You could have it always with you and just get that stuff out. So like if you're out to dinner and like something comes up, just put it in your phone real quick, put it on the power list, and then get back to like life, you know? So hopefully you're not like dwelling on things while you're trying to enjoy the moment with family or something, and just, you know, keep the work separate.
And those things that happen in passing, someone walking past you and saying, oh, by the way, and then you're like, 2 weeks later when they say, remember when I told you, and you do remember, but you immediately forgot it, those things don't happen as much anymore. Because that happens to me a lot here. You know, like, hey, I want to cancel my account or go on hold, and then, oh, I remember them saying it, but they just told me, and then there was no follow-up on my part, and it is on me. Like those things, it relieves me of that being on me too.
Yeah, that's where the discipline of just like, it's just out of your head, it's on paper, and that's just a routine.
Cool. And if you guys struggle with it, that's normal. I mean, a lot of us kind of go in and out. There's days where we forget to use it and stuff like that, but just keep revisiting it. You'll get better at it over time, and keep score. Keep score to see how you do. And again, if you get everything done in the day, you win the day. If you get 4 out of 5 in a week, you win the week. And 3 out of 4 weeks in a month, you win the month. And you do that enough times, and it's a different life. So, hope you guys enjoy this episode. Talk to you soon.